orange rose, microchips us, iPhone cameras us, taco salads us, Boteach us, Olive Garden us, White Phosphor us, Hamasabra Hamas, Hasbara us.
Hello, and welcome to Bad Hasbara, the world's most moral podcast. I am your most moral host, Matt Lieb. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Apologies up top for the fact that this week I didn't have an episode out until just right now, the one you're listening to. It's been a crazy busy week, and, so... I got a lot of jobs. I got too many jobs and none of them pay enough. So that's why I need your guys' help to, make me quit all my jobs. But until then, sometimes the episodes are just going to be once a week, which I think is a normal schedule. Give us 5 stars and a review on all the apps and stuff, Spotify, whatnot. Like, subscribe, all that shit, do all the things you would do for any other channel. Whatever those hosts say, do what they say, but with my channel. I'm too embarrassed to say it. Hit the bell button for notifications. It's just, what a life. Also, once again, Sacramento Punchline, Sunday, March 17th, 7 p.m. Please buy tickets, come out. There's still a few left. It's going to be a really great show. And finally, join the subreddit. We have a subreddit, r/Bad Hasbara. It's run by JP Ben. He does a great job moderating, making sure that it's not flooded with a bunch of Hasbarists who do like to flood. They like to go into Reddit accounts or Reddit communities and just be like, but what about, and then something irrelevant to a genocide happening. So join that. And also shout out to Adam Levin, our producer. We now have a producer. We don't have quite enough money to pay a producer, but it's an investment into the future. He's a great guy. He is helping me out, taking some of the load from my shoulders. Speaking of loads on shoulders, someone today is going to be taking the load off of my shoulders a little bit. It's my sometimes co-host and my number one best, most moral friend, Daniel Maté, is here.
There's a load on my shoulder?
There's a load.
Who Dude, gross. I like this shirt.
Well, it washes out, I'll get you some Tide to go. Jesus Christ. What's up, man?
Am I the second most moral host?
Yeah, you're the second. Yeah. You're the sometimes most moral host. Not that you're sometimes moral. You're always moral. Yeah. But you're sometimes host.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. Just like it's
good. Good's an overstatement for me.
It really is.
I am that I am.
You exist, and what more can you ask of the world than to live? Seems like one of those things that we can all agree is something that's good. People living
shouldn't be too much to ask, and yet. Well,
I'm very glad that you're joining me today. This is, like I said, this was a crazy busy week for me, and so I wasn't able to, book a guest. But here's the thing, Daniel, you're one of my OGs. You're one of my original guests turned best friend of the pod. And so to me, it's like every time I see you, it's like a guest. You know what I mean?
I mean, I am a guest / host.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're both.
And you're always hosting. Like it's always in, it's in
my
StreamYard.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's my account.
You're the one who decides to bring me or put me back off stage, backstage, right?
That's right. It's backstage.
You could make me disappear right now. I don't have that.
That's right. I can do all sorts of shit with this. I can put all sorts of. I could put videos up where your face is. I got the edit.
You could put filters on me.
I could put filters on you.
What filter would you put on me right now? Yeah.
Oh man, I would do the one where your face is like, that one. That's a great one. I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great having you be here with me today to talk about just some of the insane stuff going on. And today our main topic is about a holy man, a man who is devoted to God and to none others, puts no others above God other than himself. We're talking about the Rabbi Shmuley Boteach.
Or as Norman Finkelstein calls him, Schmucky Botox.
Yeah, does he? I've not heard that. That is beautiful. Schmucky Botox. I've been calling him Boteach because that's how it's spelled.
Yeah.
And little Boteach loves to preach. He is someone who's been around for a while. If you are in any way familiar with the world of pro-Israel talking points and Hasbarists, you are familiar with him. He is what I would say he was like the raging rabbi. That's how I would put it. Also,
if you frequent New York City's finest ice skating establishments, you're very likely to have him tap you on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, film me, react to me, so I can,
film me yelling at you,
film me yelling at you, and you getting justifiably upset at me, so that I can announce that the Holocaust has started."
Yeah. Hey, could you do me a favor and just say "Free Palestine" to me real quick? Okay, Free Palestine. You son of a bitch! Pulls out a phone. Yeah, this guy, as Daniel is saying, he has popped up a lot since October 7th, which naturally, I mean, a lot of the kind of, he's a Hasbarist. That's, of course, one of the things he's going to do. He's going to pop up. But yeah, the most recent thing that he's been doing, other than tons of media hits in which he is, trying to debate people and yell at people, he's been going on social media and uploading videos of him ice skating and yelling at Arabs. And I have a few of those videos here.
On the ice skating rink, and instead of saying sorry, he says "Free Palestine." How dare you? How dare you? What's your name? Big Shot? What's your name, Big Shot? Big Daddy. What's your name, Big Shot? Coward. People like you are cowards. You hit me on the ice, you don't say sorry, and you say "Free Palestine."
Free Palestine,
say,
bro.
What's your name?
Free Palestine.
Don't be everywhere. We're making you famous.
Hold on. What I want to remix that when he goes, "What's your name, Big Shot?" I want to have Billy Joel start. Bam, ba da ba da da bam, bam, ba ba da 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 bam, bam, ba ba da 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 bam, 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 ba. Well, you went uptown riding in your yarmulke with the.
That's beautiful. Listen, I only know a few Billy Joel songs.
No, you had to be a big shot, didn't you?
But I can turn any song into Uptown Girl. It's a secret power that I have. Name a song. Name a song. I have to know the song first. Just name one. Watch.
All the single ladies.
All the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies with an uptown girl. She's been living in her uptown world. See, I can do it with anything, dog.
What a pivot.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Master of Puppets by Metallica.
Okay, Master of Puppets. Let's see. I was a part of the pulling the strings. Obey your master, master of puppets and pulling the strings. This is hard. With an uptown girl. She been living in her uptown world. Okay. No. I love the people who come to this podcast because they're just like traumatized by the last 4 months. They're like, finally, someone who's like deconstructing Israel's lies. And then I'm up here just singing Uptown Girl.
Hey, Palestinians, you're welcome.
Yeah, yes. You know what? You really, we deserve a medal for this because someone's got to sing Uptown Girl during the apocalypse.
Was that about Christy Brinkley?
What about Christy Brinkley?
That was about her, right? Because he was married to her.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that song is about her. I was trying to see if is she one of the D-list celebrities who's been making Zionist videos? No, I think that's Brooke Shields.
Oh God.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to dig into that. But this to continue with more Rabbi Shmuley. That's just one of the videos that he's done this. Hold on, he's done this a few times. And
I did in Times Square, I think.
Yeah, he's always ice skating in Times Square. This is the one near the big near 30 Rock with the big tree, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, Rockefeller.
Yeah, right. So I'm sorry, but could he pick a more like central tourist location to ice skate? Then it just seems a little, I don't know. It's strange to me that he would choose that. It's like, it's going to Sabaro Pizza to have your favorite slice. Here's more
attention.
On the ice?
On the ice.
Really? That's the only thing you can think of? Harassing me on the ice?
And Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
You came over to me
Happy
and said
holidays
Free
and
Palestine on the ice. What's your name?
Yeah. You don't even know my name.
Why? What are you
Someone
afraid
said Free
of?
Palestine. I'm not afraid of
This is
anything.
going to be everywhere anyway.
Good.
You came over to me.
So let people ice skate, you fucking psycho.
He's standing there with a sign being like, "Scream Free Palestine at me."
Yes, straight up. So that's
the Woolman rink at Central Park, I think.
It's called the Woolman rink.
Woolman.
Have you run into Rabbi Shmuley Boteach at any point in your?
It's been about 12 years since I was there for a friend's birthday party. So if I did, I just thought he was another little toddler among many.
You're like, whoa, that toddler is wrinkly. This guy,
that toddler hasn't shaved in a few days.
No, certainly not. So if you don't know who he is, this guy has like a long, interesting, weird history. What do you know, Daniel, about Rabbi Shmuley? What have you heard?
I know next to nothing. Something in me, like my gut tells me he was part of the Jewish Defense League at some point, but I can't.
Interesting.
But I don't know if that's true. What do you know about him?
Well, a lot more now because I was doing a little bit of research on him. All I knew previously about him was that he was this guy who was like, he's America's celebrity rabbi. I would say he's probably one of the most famous like rabbis in America, because we don't have too many like famous rabbis, I don't think.
Correct.
Usually, being a rabbi and celebrity, it's not like, being a priest is, or a pastor rather in America, where it's like, you have these evangelical pastors, they have TV shows, they have millions and millions of like audience who are just like pouring money into them. You may not even, you just know their name and you have no idea how rich they are. They fly private jets and stuff. In America, we don't have that with rabbis. So we have one celebrity rabbi, and that's basically all I knew of him. If you are a regular everyday American, you might know him as the former host of TLC's Shalom in the Home.
Oh, God.
Which ran for about 2 seasons.
Schmuck in the truck.
Yeah, he's he's someone who enjoys the limelight, I would say. He's someone who has made it his mission to be
more like the Chaim light.
Very good.
Good
He
God.
would love your puns.
I know.
He's furiously writing them all down.
Yeah.
And he is someone who has been he's done many things. He has multiple different identities. He's always Rabbi Shmuley, but is he a rabbi? Is he a TV show host? Is he an agent of the Israeli government?
Or a spiritual advisor to politicians like RFK Jr.?
That's
RFK
right.
Jr. was getting a lot of goodwill among like anti-imperialist leftists for this on this campaign, because he was, he was signaling that he was against profligate U.S. spending in Ukraine, things like that. Mm-hmm. And then he starts palling around with Rabbi Shmuley.
Yes.
and just showing that he has no principles
None at all.
whatsoever. Like on the things that make him potentially attractive, he has absolutely no consistent principles.
Yes.
Because, and it's so weird. He was acting like someone was pointing a gun at him or something and forcing him to say these things, but it seemed absolutely sincere. And he was doing events with Shmuley and
yes. And you know, that's the thing, you know, it's a pivot, but it's an important pivot because I think it's actually pretty fascinating watching the rise of RFK Jr. kind of happening early on in this like presidential campaign, and watching him kind of like, yeah, kind of, you know, for sure the like the populist, you know, the populist right was, you know, liking him because he's a big anti-vaxxer, and there was portions of the populist left that was interested in him because he was saying all of the right words regarding.
they were RFK curious.
Yeah, RFK curious,
And
which
he
you know
was saying things that no other Democrat was willing to say, and
yes.
and a Democrat who's willing to go against democratic orthodoxy is a rare and interesting species in any case, no matter what, you know, because it's such a party of conformity at this point and falling in line.
Yes, and
then
yeah, and then he starts being asked about his you know, what his thoughts are on Israel, and that is when, like, for me, I've never been someone who has used Palestine as a litmus test, but mostly because I don't give Americans enough credit to be educated on the topic. And so for some people, I'm like, it's like you have to understand, in America, there's a default Zionist position. And so for me, I never felt comfortable using it as a litmus test because I was like, I don't know, you know, some people, it's like they weigh their, you know, they go, do I want AIPAC going after me? Like if they're a politician, do I want AIPAC going after me or do I want the gun lobby going after me? I can't have both. And so in the past, I've always been like, I don't know. Now it is the most clear litmus test that it could be. If you are truly an anti-imperialist politician, if you are truly someone who considers yourself a leftist, to go and defend Israel at this moment is just unforgivable, and it's completely mask off. It says to me that you stand by none of the principles that you proclaim to. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a special circle of hell for the people who are not exactly running and defending Israel, but they're equivocating and they're you know, they're paying lip service to standing in solidarity with their colleagues Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar.
Yes.
But when confronted about words like genocide, I mean, on the one hand, it's like Bernie Sanders at this point, I've just got a nothing reaction to.
Same.
Because he's saying a lot of the right words, but I just
Right.
don't. It's like a lover who's let you down too many times and
know.
now is saying soothing things.
Yeah.
AOC, I have a less than negative reaction to because of the slickness of her and just I just read cowardice on her. Like she's, you know, and then she gets so victimized when people, did you see that clip of people confronting her and saying, just call it a genocide? And she's like, this is not okay. Okay. I said it. And you're going to take this out of context and just playing the victim and not getting where her constituents are coming from when she
Right.
was the motherfucking, we have to bring the ruckus to the Democratic Party person. You know.
Yeah, it's hard with AOC because she's someone who has, you know, like Bernie Sanders in the past, done things that I have been like, you know, hats off to her. She's, I don't want to say succumbed to pressure, but, you know, she was going to do some sort of event at one point for like praising Itzhak Rabin, and she was told by various like leftist progressive like Jewish groups and pro-Palestinian solidarity groups and whatnot, don't do this because
she responded to pressure.
Yeah, and she responded to pressure and was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, you know what, actually, I kind of hats off to that because I think that it's number one, it shows a willingness to listen and understand. And number two, I just think that we just don't see, I just want more politicians to succumb to leftist pressure. We just don't have that. And so I was like, well, thank you for doing that.
The only problem is she won't do it when it means crossing the party.
Yeah, see, that's
the party
thing.
leadership.
She's playing the game now more so than, before. And it's one of those things where some people praise her pragmatism for playing the game. I personally am not someone who, I'm not a wonk. If you're someone who's like, well, I understand the inside of, Congress and you got to play the game in order to do this and that. To me, I'm like, okay, but isn't there a limit to there's a limit, right? When a genocide is happening, there's a limit to like cowering and, being like,
and accommodating. Yeah.
Accommodating. Yeah.
By the way, we need to make a film called Willy Wonk and the Amazing Chocolate Think Tank.
I love it. We can get Timothy Chalamet on board, although another list came out of the people like put out these like TikTok will occasionally just be like, here's who's a Zionist who you didn't know, and someone put Timothy Chalamet on. I'm like, at this point, I think people are just, they're like looking through people's likes and stuff, and they'll,
I think we'd want someone with a little bit more intellectual or at least cerebral heft to play
Norman Finkelstein?
Willy Wonk. Well, Mark Ruffalo or
sure.
There's a good anti-Zionist or a good at least anti-genocide.
He's at the very least.
You don't even have to be an anti-Zionist at this point. I don't care. Just be
moral
against genocide.
Yeah, I know.
You don't have to be as moral as the world's most moral podcast.
No, of course not. No one could dare, even try to reach these heights of morality. But just, recognize genocide when you see it.
That's right.
That seems like not much to ask. But yeah, RFK went on, again, this is a tangent, but I wanted to play a little bit of this. RFK Jr. went on Breaking Points, which is Crystal Ball's podcast. And I have a little bit of that just because I just thought it was...
If while you're playing that, I disappear from the frame and go to the bathroom while I have my headphones on, will that negatively affect the podcast or the Patreon?
Not even a little bit, bro.
Okay,
I do want to be able to hear you taking a shit though.
I'm gonna mute, and I'm not gonna specify exactly what's happening.
Don't say the number. All right. Here we go.
At what point do you say, okay, it's enough? Because the other piece of this, even if you say, and I know you're not saying this, I'm not putting, but even if you say, I don't care about the Palestinian lives, they got to do what they got to do. It's the cost of war. What are you going to do? There's also a lot of evidence that what they're actually doing is fomenting increasing support for Hamas. Because if you think about it, if you're a kid and your parents get blown up, what kind of politics do you think you're going to have when you grow up? Isn't that going to be tremendously radicalizing and incredibly compromising to the security of Israelis alike?
So how would you get rid of Hamas?
Well,
if you're Israel.
Well, I'm not running for president of the United States, number one. But number two, I think we have a model for this in a sense from the way we went in and approached bin Laden.
I'm sorry. Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I wasn't going to take a shit, but then I heard his voice.
It sounds like he's always taking a shit.
It sounds like a laxative. It's like a...
God. I know he has some sort
gargling laxatives. I know
he has some sort of thing, but at this point, I'm sorry.
Some kind of syphilitic after effect or something.
Yeah, if you're defending genocide, I'm going to make fun of basically whatever I can on your person or in your person.
Yeah, Crystal did a good job in this interview.
She did fantastic, and it's like this response to what she just said of
just tremendously radicalizing and incredibly compromising to the security of Israelis alike.
So how would you get rid of Hamas?
This is the most disingenuous fucking question that people ask in order to pivot away from, actually showing any kind of leadership ability. And this is someone who's running for president. This is someone who's like, I want to be the president, and is going to ask a television host, well, how would you get rid of Hamas? The implication being the only way to get rid of Hamas is for Israel to continue doing what it's doing.
Not only that, no. There's a much more fundamental one.
Mm-hmm.
And here I have to credit my brother for putting this one in my head.
Mm-hmm.
The implication being Israel has any right whatsoever to dictate to the Palestinians who their leadership is. The implication being that somehow Hamas's actions over the years, or even if you start on October 6th,
Right.
make it such that they are ineligible to be in power. And
Yes.
but that somehow the Israeli government still has legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
The implication being that it's any of anyone's fucking business which prison gang rises up inside of the ghetto concentration camp,
Right.
open air prison that you're deliberately created
Yes.
to rule those people. The implication being that democracy is great except when Palestinians are voting.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. At 100%. 100%. And this idea of Hamas as being, sort of like the existence of Hamas being Israel's trump card of like, we are therefore allowed to do whatever the hell we want because this is the elected leadership of Gaza. I mean, first of all, it's like, we probably debunked this on several different podcasts several different times, but it's just so absolutely ahistoric, the amount of like propaganda around like how Hamas came to power and how it relates to the 17-year siege of Gaza, and how Hamas came to power, they won this election and they started killing everybody, as if the United States and Israel did not try to do a coup after the election of Hamas. And
do you know what is crazy? We have taken sonograms, how you say ultrasound of pregnant Palestinian women, and Palestinian fetuses are taught from conception to pull the lever for Hamas. They vote in utero for the Hamas. So they come out of I don't know the word for that part of the body, but they come out of that already having cast their votes as democratic citizens for terror.
They put the ballot right next to the pregnant woman's belly, and the baby eat a kick and a punch hole right where it says Hamas.
Yes, and that is Gazan version of cesarean section. The baby kicks its own way out to vote for Hamas. This might be the most absurd, dark joke.
It was.
We've made on this podcast yet.
It's only going to get worse.
Exactly.
But yeah, RFK.
We're not setting the rules.
Listen, this I could play this whole thing, but at the end of the day, what happens in that interview is RFK Jr. refuses to engage in the subject in anything beyond standard Hasbara talking points about Israel's right to defend itself, and not believing the death toll, not believing any numbers that don't come straight from the IDF. And it's just
he doesn't believe in Arabic. He doesn't believe in Arabic numerals.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Arabic numerals, dude. That shit is straight up Islamist.
Have you ever seen anyone do this with his chest? More, he's always like, this. There's no wonder he talks like this, because
he's stopped
his
stretching.
Vocal cords are strained. Yeah, he's stuck in a stretch.
But it brings up a point that I think is important, because I often criticize liberals for being too obsessed with people using the right words. It's like you can trick a liberal very easily by saying things like, Israel is gay friendly, and is you can butter them up by giving them all of their favorite political tasty treats, and it's just led to things like John Fetterman. Like, he said all the right things up in the campaign, and then he becomes the senator, and he has gone full psycho. But I will say that
like,
also
where would you rather be a trans person? In a
Right.
Tel Aviv penthouse eating a steak dinner with Sauvignon Blanc,
yeah.
or under the rubble in Gaza?
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a very good point. I guess the first one, because the second one sounds like death. Who made the rubble? Anyways.
Did you see that Onion headline? U.S. to drop rubble on Gaza, to airdrop rubble, humanitarian rubble.
That's very good. There was someone sent me another one that the Onion did back in like 2006 or something, and it was in response to one of the many high-ranking Hamas officials who have been killed, at least as reported by the Israeli government, and it said something like 86th. Second in command of Al Qaeda has been murdered, and it's because everyone that they kill they just say is the second in command. I do think that the left can suffer from this too. If you say some of the right things, some of the right like populist left stuff, you get more credit than it's worth, because you go like, if RFK Jr. is out there talking about, ending funding to Ukraine and whatnot, as a leftist, or at least as a portion of the left that wants to do that, they look at that and they go like, oh, that's great, because he's taking, a stance against like the Democratic Party's like norms and whatnot. And that's a brave thing to do. But I look at that and I go like, well, if you also have, the right wing also supporting that, how brave is it? It's crossing party lines, which is brave in and of itself, but it's also like, I don't know. To me, I look at this situation and I go like, you've got bipartisan consensus in government, both parties, like, yes, Israel, do what you got to do. If you are not saying what you need to do is a ceasefire, what you need to do is to end this occupation, what you need to do is give Palestinians their own state or civil rights or, whatever, a single secular state, then you are a coward, and no one on the left should be propping you up at all. I really don't care about, I guess I'm more of a single issue guy. But if that issue is genocide, I don't know. I feel like it's justified.
Well, in a moment like this, it's the issue. It's the issue because it affects everything else. Mm-hmm. It's of such historic proportions. It's also such a referendum on how you feel about democracy, given that most Americans very much want a ceasefire, given that, and bless the souls of these protesters, Democratic politicians right now can't get a word out in public. Kristen Gillibrand the other day here in New York, Adam Schiff in LA the other day.
That's right.
And it's about time that motherfucker gets interrupted.
Yes.
And, and even with all of that, with AOC being hounded, with Bernie being hounded, to not respond.
Yeah.
Because none of these people are ideologically committed to Israel. The Republicans are, Joe Biden is, Adam Schiff is, Pelosi is, but the rest is just pure cowardice, and it's contempt for your own constituents. And this is why, the election of someone like George Galloway in England is it's so bracing, because we don't have anyone like that here who's actually willing to go on national news and be interviewed by this sniveling little weasel of a journalist who says, but what, you don't respect the Prime Minister? He says, I don't respect the Prime Minister. I despise the Prime Minister. I despise him. I've just been elected with a thumping majority.
Oh, you're doing a good Scottish accent. I think there's a rule.
I've been impersonating George for 20 years. I love it.
Rule: no good accents on this podcast. You got to Shrek that up. You got to make it real weird. No, but that was great. But yeah, no, it's like when you see that, and I know, some people were tweeting at me like, oh no, he's bad for XYZ reason. And listen, I don't pay attention to fucking UK politics, so I'm sure there's a million reasons why he's bad. But when I see a politician, any politician, in the West, quote unquote, in the Anglosphere, openly and passionately defending the human rights of Palestinians, I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's badass to me and brave, and also fuck any mainstream political organization in either England or America or any news organization that makes it their mission to marginalize that person for that belief.
Or demonize them. Did you ever hear Ron Paul's comments about Gaza like 10 years ago?
Oh, no. Ron Paul is, that's right. Ron Paul. No. What did he
Rand
have
Paul's
to say?
dad.
Yeah.
It was very impressive.
Yeah.
He was talking about how basically we, and he says we because we're paying for it, construct this concentration camp, and they fire these piddling little rockets that scare Israelis but do very little damage.
Right.
And then we just bombard them every few years, and it's completely unacceptable. And how, of course, you're going to rack everything Crystal Ball just said, just very, and it's not even said in a kind of indifferently isolationist way. It's very humanitarian. Right. It's very human,
Yeah. Well, he was a libertarian, he's a libertarian ideologue, and I feel like which you end up respecting about half of their politics when they're a libertarian.
Because they will, and you respect the fact that they have convictions that they're willing to go to bat for.
Yes. Even though some of those convictions, especially an American libertarian is a conservative, some of those are just free market capitalism will control everything, which of course is bullshit, and I don't agree with. But at the same time, they also will be ideologically committed to the idea that no drug should be illegal, or that a fundamentally isolationist foreign policy. And to me, I'm like, there's parts of that appeal to me. And then, of course, the rest, not so much. But fucking, I do respect anyone who has the balls to say that. And I'm sorry, but like, if at this point, Palestine is a litmus test. If you are someone who's running for office and you are not willing to say with your whole chest, this is genocide, ceasefire now, even if it's just ceasefire now at this point, I mean, listen, I'm taking what I can get. If you're not willing to say that, then to me, it's like, okay, so you stand for nothing, and you're a coward. Yep. But before we continue, I have been reminded by my my producer. He's not here, but in my head, I started thinking about him randomly and what he would say right now. And he would say, Matt, remember, you have to say...
I have an imaginary producer too, Matt.
Oh, you do? What's his name?
He actually hasn't told me. He's just constantly telling me that my mic levels are wrong and that...
That's just the voice in your head telling you you're not good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Come to think of it, that's not what his producer's supposed to do.
Yeah. Hey, you're fired. Oh no, he's telling me he can't fire. You can't fire me. I quit. No, but he would remind me that I have to say it's time to go to commercial, because on the podcast, the audio version, we do go to commercial. So guys, stick around. We're going to commercial, but we'll be right back. Okay, we're back.
Boy, I hope that sponsor was not, a war criminal corporation.
Hey, listen, if a war criminal corporation, if Raytheon, if you want to reach out to me and you want me to do a live read for some of your wonderful guns and bombs, reach out, badhasbar@gmail.com. Just kidding. But we were talking a little bit about Rabbi Shmuley, and I wanted to read to you something that he wrote recently for the Jewish Journal.
So he wrote something?
Yeah. Oh, he's a writer. He is a what you would call a prolific writer. This is someone who has written over, I believe, 30 books. A lot of them are about fucking. Like he's the most fucky rabbi in America. Like he is a rabbi who he's made his niche, or one of his many niches, but he's made his most popular niche was writing books about sex and marriage. Like Shalom in the Home, the TLC show, was him doing essentially marriage counseling, and his whole thing is like, you know, you need to have sex with your wife like you're cheating on her.
You need to bone more. I'm getting Ferris Bueller vibes, you know? I came along to restore your pluck because I'm the rabbi who likes to...
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, he is the rabbi who likes to fuck, and he
likes it when other people fuck, at least.
Right. No, he himself, he's
the rabbi who would like to fuck.
Yeah, he was a rabbi who desperately wants to fuck. But yeah, he's written books like Kosher Sex, A Recipe for Passion and Intimacy, in which he tells
Just make sure you take the bay leaves out before serving.
That's right. Yes. He is, what else has he written? Let's see. Kosher Sex, Kosher Adultery, Seduce and Sin with Your Spouse. I mean, this guy is he's in Americans' bedrooms trying to get them to fuck good, which, hey, more power to you. But he is also a big old Hasbarist. He is also, gone on to debate Norman Finkelstein. Did you watch the debate with Norman Finkelstein? Oh,
I saw a few clips. I did really enjoy his pregame trash talk on,
yes.
Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, solemnly swear that I shall digitally disembowel and eviscerate him.
That's right.
As a terrorist.
I just completed my debate on Piers Morgan Uncensored against America's foremost Jewish anti-Semite, Professor Norman Finkelstein.
Oh, this is him after the fact. He actually wrote beforehand exactly what you were saying, that he would digitally decapitate.
And disembowel.
Digitally decapitate and disembowel.
And of course, digitally makes it sound like he's going to do it with his fingers.
With his fingers, something. He's a real wacko. But that debate, if that is his debate style, is just yelling, I would like to see him in more debates, to be honest.
All right, so let's watch this post game.
Yeah, let's watch a little bit of his post game. This is him celebrating his win.
Hi, everybody. I just completed my debate on Piers Morgan Uncensored against America's foremost Jewish anti-Semite, Professor Norman Finkelstein. Professor, I use the word loosely. He's not tenured anywhere. I promised you I would digitally decapitate, digitally disembowel, and digitally destroy him, and God willing, you'll decide whether I kept my promise or not. Why do I speak that way? And people say we shouldn't speak that way. It's to draw a line between our opponents and us. We don't decapitate people. We don't shoot them in the vagina. We don't cut their breasts off. We don't behead their children. We Jews are moral.
We just fantasize about it.
Yeah.
We just get off on wishing we were powerful enough to do it or something.
Yes. No, we just DM you in the middle of the night saying that Hamas would do that to you.
That's right.
That's our favorite thing to do.
Hey, you up? I'm touching myself thinking about you getting raped by Hamas.
Yeah. They really love it. He
looks like he's sucking on a ketamine lozenge or something in that video.
I mean, it's the only thing that keeps him going. The dude is perpetually sweaty. He's the most slimy looking man. Like literally, he's covered in slime. But in his debate, which I think is important to just see a little bit of it, because the one thing I love about Norman Finkelstein is his debate style, at least as of late, has been to draw I would say a contrast between him and his opponent by being calm, collected, and cool.
Yeah, he's unflappable.
Yeah, whereas that is not so much the case with Rabbi Shmuley.
How do you read where we are with this war? There are many ways to read it. You can read it politically, you can read it militarily, you can read it strategically, or you can read it from a point of view of human rights and international law. Now, when it comes to the very last consideration, I think it's very clear how we should read it. Namely, the International Court of Justice has said that Israel is under two obligations. Obligation number one is to honor the laws of war in what it's doing in Gaza. And obligation number two, Israel has to provide humanitarian aid and assistance to the people of Gaza. And it's not honoring its obligations as they were spelled out by the International Court of Justice.
Okay. Rabbi Shmuley, you tweeted this morning when we booked you for this debate. You called Norman Finkelstein an anti-Semite. You said, "You have my word that God willing, I will digitally decapitate, digitally disembowel, and digitally destroy him." Do you think that was the right kind of rhetoric before you try and debate such a serious matter?
First of all, thank you for having me back, Pierce. It's nice to see you. And Norm, I hope you don't mind if I call you Norm. You can please call me Shmuley. Norman Finkelstein.
Look at his face. Norm's face is like, fuck off.
If the journalistic idiom that Jews are news is true, because Israel's this big, it gets this much attention, then how much more so Jewish anti-Semites get the brightest headlights?
Okay, I'm sorry. Jews is news? Is he just making up a thing? Has that ever been the case? Jews being news?
If it bleeds, it leads.
Jews are news.
If it kvetches, it
retches.
It sketches, it retches. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
If it's Jews, it's news. If it's blues, it's clues.
Norman Finkelstein is the foremost Jewish anti-Semite on planet Earth. He actually attacked his own parents, whose only crime was to be Jewish. Their entire family was annihilated in Warsaw. They're not victims. They hated Germans and wanted them dead. He didn't think to himself, maybe my parents wanted the Germans to suffer to stop the war, to break the will of the German people, to stop murdering.
That's exactly what Norman said his parents wanted. And not only that, but he said that they hated Germans for the rest of their lives and he will never fault them for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a puke.
Yeah, this is Rabbi Shmuley. Once again, if you invoke the Holocaust or Holocaust survivors in favor of the Israeli government's wars against Arabs, then
exploit away.
Have fun with it.
1,000 Jews per day. 400 women shot in the genitals, their breasts cut off as terrorists played with their bloody breasts like a football. Glory, hallelujah. Women shot in their genitals, Norm. Glory! You should be a televangelist. Glory! Hallelujah! Children burned to death and beheaded. Glory! Hallelujah! Come on. You're a fair person, Pierce. The thing is that he needs a psychiatrist.
It's a tough room.
Professor Wolfgang. Wait, one second. Professor Wolfgang.
Norman Finkelstein gave I thought, a pretty measured argument in response to my first question. You've gone ad hominem immediately and attacked the man, not the issue, and not the question.
That's exactly what he does. He likes to. He's not a debater. I mean, listen. He gained a lot of popularity in England. Shmuley did, as someone who would go and debate Palestinians and anyone who was, talking bad about Israel. And
British Jews are insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, talk about, like, if you want to, it's one of the reasons why all of the PR psychos you see all have British accents. You're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, there's an Oxbridge, secret society for training you to do that for a living, like Elon Levy. Pierce, I just have to say, Piers Morgan has been not even close to remotely good on this.
Sure.
Overall, and he's given a lot of airtime to Nazi creeps like Douglas Murray, and he just, for way too long, has been. Well, he just is unable to break out of the shackles of the basic premises of Hasbara. Mm-hmm. But I'll say this: he does have a certain degree of decorum and standards on his own show, and he showed Norm a lot of respect in his previous interviews, and in this one, you can clearly see a huckster when he sees one. Yeah. And he had my father on his show.
That's right.
Maté, and I think my dad's in England right now. He might be doing the show again. I can't promise that, but I heard something.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't interrupt him at all.
Yeah.
He's actually, it takes something to reach Pierce's moral center. Did you see Norman's first interview with him? What he appealed to in Pierce to get him to?
No.
And I took a walk with Norm on Coney Island a few months ago in the cold, on a cold December day. He said, "Come on out to Coney Island. I'll take you on my 5-mile Gaza width walk." He does the 5-mile Coney Island walk on the beach every single day, which is the width of Gaza. And he calls it the Norman Finkelstein Gaza width walk. And he was telling me that, and I'd seen it, but I said, "Were you sincere about this?" He went on Pierce's show and he said, "Pierce, I want to tell you something. I just want to acknowledge you for something. I've respected you for years because when you were a judge on, what was it, The Voice or Britain's Got Talent or something, when Susan Boyle was being mocked for her looks or something like that,
Right.
I could see the look of anguish on your face, and I could see how touched you were, and you actually stood up for her." And he said, "That moved me deeply. And ever since then, I've known that you're a good person." And I asked Norm about that. I'm like, "Were you just blowing smoke up his ass?" Norm said, "Absolutely not."
Wow.
That stuck with me for a long time. He had nothing to gain by standing up for that poor woman.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it just, if he could apply the same level of empathy to, Palestinians, that would be great. At the same time, credit where credit is due, he has been the guy that I've seen, at least on British television, letting people speak, letting people who are advocating for Palestinian lives or advocating for a ceasefire, letting Palestinians make their case, quote unquote, or letting anti-Zionist Jews speak in complete sentences.
And sometimes he'll allow a trickle of his own sympathy because on some level he knows it doesn't compute, right? He knows he thinks Israel has the right to defend itself. He knows he thinks Hamas needs to be destroyed. He knows he thinks the Jews deserve a state of their own and all this stuff. And at the same time, he looks at the reality. He can't square that with 30,000 Palestinians being killed, with starvation, and he just kind of will speak that contradiction. He doesn't take the next obvious leap, which is to give up the former illusions.
Yeah.
But at least he allows his conscience, like Dana, as opposed to someone like Dana Bash on American TV, on CNN, who the other day was talking to Pramila Jayapal, and she's like, 30,000 Palestinians have been murdered and are starving. And Dana Bash, like just straight face says, "Yeah, well, at least, but you have to admit, Israeli soldiers aren't in Gaza raping people."
Yeah. Yeah. At least they're just killing people. Yeah.
At least they're just murdering. Plus, no, they don't murder people they don't rape people in the field. They rape them in jail.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
right.
Constant reports regarding the sexual
which never
abuse.
get reported.
Yeah. The reports exist. They just don't get talked about.
So this is a woman who in the face of an opportunity to feel something human.
Yeah.
About other human beings, her job requires that she not see them as human beings, and the iron wall comes down.
Yeah.
Whereas for Pierce, there's still an opening. It's a gate, but it's grated.
Yeah.
So he's like at the bars clutching. He can see through. We can still see his face.
He's Darth Vader. He's just he's looking at the Emperor, doing electricity on his son, and he's like, Yeah,
exactly. But it's as if that scene lasts for like
30 years,
2 hours, 30 years. On the next episode of Star Wars, Darth Vader is still like, whoa, whoa. And the electrical flashes are lighting up his mouth.
I don't know. I still don't know. I love it. Just drinking coffee at one point. Is Luke still being electrocuted?
This is a Kids in the Hall sketch.
It really is. Just one more moment from that debate, just because it was so good. This is one of my favorite moments. Here it is.
Well, I'm not sure what was the purpose to inviting either me or Mr. Shmuley to this program.
Mr. Shmuley.
Because obviously we are on two entirely different wavelengths. Mr. Shmuley is in the business, which is not surprising, of character assassination. He's in the business of libel.
Look how mad Shmuley
That's his
is.
job, because where he have to confront the facts, he would be in a very difficult situation. So let me make one clarification. None of my remarks bear on my personal opinions. I simply am repeating what the documentary record shows. Now, according to Mr. Shmuley, I am a liar because, according to Mr. Shmuley, the International Court of Justice explicitly concluded that Israel was not committing a genocide. Now, I would say that Mr. Shmuley is suffering from what I would call a Judeo-dementia, because there is no possibility
Come on, Shmuley. You got to give props for that one, man.
any rational human being could have read the opinion or the ruling rendered by the International Court of Justice after the South Africa application and after the oral proceedings. There is no possibility on earth that any rational person can conclude that the International Court of Justice ruled that Israel was not committing a genocide. So,
just,
And then he's about to say, now we have two difficulties. Number one, he always does.
difficulties.
yeah,
Number one,
This
Mr.
is-
Shmuley
is
seems
always
to
two.
think his
Yes.
purpose to being on the program is to personally attack me. The Latin term ad hominem attacks. Number two,
Shmuley is so
Rabbi
impatient.
Shmuley seems incapable of processing very basic facts. If Mr. Shmuley believes that the
Mr.
International
Shmuley.
Court of Justice ruled explicitly that Israel was not committing genocide, if that's what he truly believes, then I would say he's suffering from some form of Judeo-dementia.
Of some form.
I mean, that's fucking ballsy to say Judeo-dementia. Also, you know what it is about Norm?
What?
He sets the pace.
Yes. Yes.
He slows things down
Yes. Yes.
to the place where everyone can follow exactly, methodically, what he is saying and where it's coming from. And he's very right. When he veers into personal opinion, he makes it very clear he's veering into personal opinion, and he can get outrageous and very scabrous, and cutting.
Yeah.
But much of the time, the default position for him is just reporting what other people have reported,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
doing some elementary moral reasoning.
Yeah. Just connecting some quick moral dots. And,
Exactly.
yeah, and I love the setting the pace thing, because I think that, to me, like watching Rabbi Shmuley like shifting uncomfortably in that seat as Norman Finkelstein, quote, droned on, which is how he described it. Like,
Yeah.
you could feel the impatience in him. You could feel the clock ticking in his head. And he's like, I'm only on TV for 1 hour. He's going to suck up half an hour of my stage time, of my time to make my points. Like, I need the material to make clips, and he's taking fucking forever.
Hey, Matt, let's try for 30 seconds to just have a conversation at Finkelstein speed. See what happens.
So, well, I can't do it, bro. I can't. You try. You go first.
Yeah. Well, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I would say
Yep.
that there are two aspects to going at Finkelstein speed. Two
Go on.
aspects to going at Finkelstein speed.
Yeah.
Number one, be completely and totally unconcerned with the feelings, comfort level, and experience of your interlocutor, which is to say, the person to whom you are speaking. Number two.
That is perfect. That is literally that you've got his cadence down to a T. And it's something that I think for Shmuley, reading a little bit of his history, found that, again, he was big on British radio as the Jew that fought back. His whole thing was while every other, anti-Israel, quote unquote, like BBC host or BBC guest, every Palestinian would go on these, and talk about the evils of Israel, as he put it. And he said the Jewish guests would, say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I feel differently, instead of fighting back. So his whole thing was yelling and confronting, which makes for good entertainment, which is why he is an entertainer. That is what he is. He is, a rabbi only insofar as it gets him, the celebrity status that he craves. And he has went on record in 1999 in an interview in which he said, I love promoting God and Judaism, but let's call a spade a spade. The reason I'm on TV is because I want to be a celebrity. And he
promotes God the way Don King promoted Mike Tyson.
100%. He exploits God. He exploits his faith. And he, is using it for a singular purpose, which is him being a famous person. And, that worked out for a little bit for him. And then he started declining in fame. And October 7th was really his way of coming back into the limelight. And he has now...
You think he was in on it?
Oh, 100%. No, I'm just kidding. But listen, hey, where was he on October 7th?
What's this I hear about? Did you know that no Jews went to work in Gaza on October 7th?
I heard that. They all got a phone call.
That's a bad joke. What's this I hear about him being a dildo salesman?
So yes, part of his brand that has been his continuing moneymaker, has, like I said, has been his relationship and couples books that he writes. And his daughter also has a line of kosher dildos and kosher sex toys and stuff like that.
Hold on. Please tell me kosher dildos is spelt with 2 L's.
Oh yeah, 100%. They are pickles. They are literally just plastic pickles. You put them in.
They're so they're not ribbed, but they have the
little dots. And he's always trying to help promote
with extra acid for the chassids.
It starts out as a cucumber, and you just keep it in your vagina for long enough until it pickles. That's
first it tickles, then it pickles.
Oh, you know what, Rabbi Shmuley, you can have that tagline. But so his brand of late has been obviously defending Israel, and he wrote this article for the Jewish Journal that I just want to get into because it speaks to something so deep down in the psyche of not just him, but also kind of the Zionist mindset regarding Jews and diaspora Jews, and this anti-Semitic, in my opinion, feeling of disdain for the way Jews deal with anti-Semitism. And I'm going to read this from the Jewish Journal. It's called Jews Must Be Feared Rather Than Loved.
Oh, very Machiavellian.
Very, very much so. And we will continue on with that. I'm going to just read some of the things here.
He's shouting out the Malcolm X movie by Spike Lee.
Yes, he does. So he says, in his outstanding 1992 movie, Malcolm X, director Spike Lee accurately portrays how the same need to fit in, to be accepted, to assimilate into the mainstream, affected and influenced the life of a young and criminal Malcolm Little. He straightened his afro hair, dated white women, and despised his blackness. But what the Nation of Islam gave him in prison was pride in being a black man. He would become one of the transformational figures of the 20th century, and today our family is friendly with this daughter, Malak Shabazz, who has been to our home for Shabbat dinner many times. Unfortunately, what the nation also gave him was a hatred for white people, especially Jews, something that he ultimately rejected once he saw through the hypocrisy of Elijah Muhammad about a year before his tragic assassination on the 21st of February, 1965. He was murdered just before he was, or just as he was becoming a great man.
Oh, that's quite a sentence.
Quite a sentence.
He had such potential, that Malcolm X.
Yeah.
He didn't quite live up to my standards of greatness.
Yes, he was almost good, but unfortunately, he still died, in his opinion, a bad man. But no one is suggesting that Jewish pride be accompanied by, God forbid, hatred of Gentiles or in general, or our Muslim brothers and sisters in particular. If there's one thing, one great teaching that the Torah has brought the world, articulated in the very first chapter of Genesis, is that we are all, Jew and Gentile alike, equal children of God.
This is from 1999?
No, this is from 3 days ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
And then he says, what I am suggesting, however,
yes,
is that unlike the black community that finally began to purge the self-hatred that comes from 300 years of slavery and Jim Crow, most black people I know would say that's still a work in progress. We Jews have never fully expunged the self-loathing that almost inevitably becomes internalized after 2,000 years of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. Yeah, you know why, Shmuley? Because Zionism has lodge that thing in there like a constipated shit. Like that's
100%.
That shit is impacted in the original sense of the word. It's Zionism is the is what keeps the self-loathing intact, actually.
Yes. And he goes on to talk about like internalizing anti-Semitism when the whole world hates you.
Yeah. For 2 millennia, rather than putting the blame squarely on the anti-Semites where it belongs, you start thinking, well, maybe there is something wrong with us. Yeah, you know who fucking said that and wrote that and thought that and built a country based on it?
Yes.
Ben Gurion and Jabotinsky and all these motherfuckers. Israel's founded on the conviction that there was something wrong with Jews.
Yes, and in this very article, I feel like he's doing this exact thing. It's very it's very Jabotinsky pilled, and it's talking about the fight against anti-Semitism being something that the Jews don't do well because we're too weak. And he goes on to talk about like George Floyd being murdered by a Minnesota cop in May of 2020. The black community never thought of being loved. They focused on being feared. I don't know what he's talking about there. I think what he's saying is that you remember when black people were marching in the streets all scary? Like this is clearly coming from a perspective of someone who saw the Black Lives Matter protests as these like terrible, scary, riots that
Would you like to know when my hatred of black people gave way to love and respect? When I saw them out in the streets with signs that looked like pitchforks to me that said, treat us equally. I feared them forever.
And so he goes, contrast that to how weakly we Jews fight anti-Semitism. A classic example being the $7 million Super Bowl ad against anti-Semitism financed by Robert Kraft's foundation, Stand Up to Jewish Hate, which featured Clarence Jones, a former lawyer and advisor to Martin Luther King Jr. Rather than focus directly on the issue at hand, which is the tsunami of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred engulfing America, right? The ad became a form of watered-down gibberish against Islamophobia and all other forms of hatred. Like this idea that because they mentioned the idea of hatred of a particular race or religious or ethnic group being like some like universalized, he saw that as a weak defense of it.
By the way, stand up to Jewish hate. Yeah, that's what this podcast is about. We are standing up to Jewish hate. It's the dumbest slogan in the world. I see these billboards. I'm driving on the BQE. Stand up to Jewish hate. End Jewish hate. I'm like, Jesus Christ. If I was an anti-Semite, I'd be like, these fucking Jews.
Yeah. And it'd be like, listen, that is what we're doing here, trying to stand up to Jewish hate. And one of the biggest hate mongers out there right now is Shmuley. He calls that weak, pitiable, pathetic, what a waste. Yeah. And he asked, how did Robert Kraft mess this up? And he said, it's because he forgot what Niccolo Machiavelli said in the 15th century in his book, The Prince. It comes down to a simple axiom. It's nice to be loved, but it's more important to be feared. He then literally goes on to talk about how Jews need to be more Machiavellian and how that's it's actually like that's how we're going to defeat the Nazis. That's how we're going to defeat Hamas. Goes on to say that's how we're going to defeat people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, American abominations like Ilhan Omar and Rashida and American Taliban like Rashida Tlaib must have their hatred, bigotry, and anti-Semitism attacked and exposed in the media nonstop. He talks about AIPAC spending a fortune running opposition candidates. He talks about basically doing all the things that AIPAC is already doing. His entire premise here is about the idea that Jews, our biggest problem is that we're too weak and we need to be feared.
We go to Lambs to the Slaughter, which is the classic self-hating, self-rejecting thing that's underlying Zionism. Can I read you some lyrics from a Broadway musical?
Oh, please.
So there's a Broadway musical based on the movie A Bronx Tale by Chaz Palminteri, and Robert De Niro co-directed this musical. I actually worked on it. This is
cool.
10 years ago. I was the 10 years ago? I don't know, something like that. I was the transcriptionist. I do work sometimes for a Broadway music supervisor writing out sheet music. So I would get Alan Menken, who wrote the music. He's the one who did the music for Little Shop of Horrors and Little Mermaid and all that. I would get his home demos and I'd have to listen and write out by ear. Anyway, so this is one of the songs that the mafia boss sings to the young Italian kid who needs a father figure. Nicky Machiavelli. Nicky Machiavelli. Let me tell you what he said. You want to use the reins of power. First, you got to use your head. Anyway, Nicky knew all the angles. Nicky laid it out all clear. You got to choose fear or love, kid. You got to choose love or fear.
Wow.
And then at a certain point, all my friends, they sleep easy knowing that I'm always near. My enemies know it too, though. It ain't about love, it's fear. And as far as those friends go, Nick suggests a real short leash. Treat him well, but hey, not too well. Keep him in your debt, capiche? Give him too much, they won't need you. Give too little, and they'll sneer. They'll sneer. Want to know what to give him? The answer ain't love, it's fear. Those lyrics are by Glenn Slater.
Fantastic.
Yeah, go check it out. It's from the musical A Bronx Tale.
I mean, that is amazing. And, he talks about Machiavelli in this article as like, a lot of people incorrectly think it's some sort of mafia handbook, but it's actually like really important. Like this idea of Jews need to be feared. This idea is, for me, I just look at it as it's just completely, number one, it is antithetical to the idea that you would like to somehow stop anti-Semitism. Right. A group of people that you want to or need to fear is
imagine the Muslim community being like, we need to stop Islamophobia by making them afraid of us.
Yes, exactly. What do you think a phobia is, bro? It's so insane to me, and it just comes from this place where you see it in real time. You see the type of anti-Semitism that Zionism brings up in people. The idea that you would suggest this as a strategy, a PR strategy to help Israel is to make people afraid of Jews. Does not make Jews safer in America. I'll tell you that much.
And in terms of trauma responses, and I'm going to need to go after this.
Yes,
that's something else starting. But I think there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Mm-hmm.
Fawning is when you try to placate your enemies. He thinks he's the fighter. And he's going against the fawners. In fact, his is the fawning because he's trying to say, look at us. We're tough like you. We belong. You should take us out of the category of victims and let us into the clubhouse of tough, strong oppressors. Look at me in my blindingly white suit going after. And he just end up looking like such a schmucky Botox. Don't be a schmucky Botox, folks.
Do not be a schmucky Botox. Be literally anyone else. Daniel Maté, thank you so much for coming on and sometimes co-hosting with me. I know you got to take off. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I got to take off like a hoser, eh?
Yeah.
Like a Canadian hoser.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to plug in particular, but you can follow me at Daniel B. Maté everywhere handles work.
Yeah, he's a great follow. Follow him. He is fantastic, and we'll be putting links to your mental chiropractic and your walk with Daniel as well. We'll put it in the.
Yeah, actually, I will plug one quick thing. Starting
please.
on, I mean, it'll be too late if people are watching this after Sunday, but if you're watching this,
Oh,
in the
they'll
next
be
48
watching
hours,
it today. I'm putting it out today, baby.
Okay, good. So there's a course that I'm co-leading with my friend Hadar Cohen called a Jewish Healing Circle, which sounds kind of maybe corny to some people or new age, but really we're just trying to get some Jews together who are feeling fucked up about what's going on and facing the fact that something's going to need to come out of this that isn't Zionism.
Yes.
We're going to need in some way to find something we can salvage about being, unless we just want to call the game and say, okay, Judaism's over, Jewishness is over.
Right.
But I don't think we want to do that. I don't think you and me want to do that. I don't think
No.
you'd be doing this podcast and satire and humor and love and solidarity. These are all things. So she and I are going to be leading a 4-week kind of discussion group on Zoom, and I'll send Matt the link that he
Yes,
can put in the
please.
description for that if you want to check that out. Could be cool for some people.
I think it'll be great. Yes, check out the link, click it. It's going to be fantastic. Both of you are incredibly emotionally intelligent people and just intelligent in general. So
But I make better dildo jokes.
Oh, 100%. I mean, listen, you can't mess with the master. Thank you, Daniel. Love you, dog.
Love you too, dude. Bye.
All right. Bye. Okay. Just to close out this episode, that article with Rabbi Shmuley is it ends with him saying he talks about having a Shabbat dinner with some friends, and they're talking about the Holocaust, and he asks, would you get on the train, yes or no? And he's asking, he says, one Sabbath I asked my Friday night guest, whom I love to challenge on historical and moral issues, a simple yet offensive question. You lived during the Holocaust and the Nazis were liquidating the ghetto and ordered you to get on the train. Would you have gotten in or resisted? And he said yes or no. I asked the journalists, politicians, and professors at our table. Each answered differently, with the split being about equal between those who said they would obey the SS order and protect their children, and the other half saying that they would disobey you even if it meant being shot. And then he said it's a trick question because by the time the Nazis get you on the train, the game is up. There's no resistance. You're going to die one way or another, either being gassed or shot. His article here basically ends with him saying that in order to fight anti-Semitism, you do everything possible to stay far away from the train. And I look at this, and this is an argument for a preemptive strike against, quote, anti-Semitism or against any kind of perceived anti-Semitism. And I think this is the issue that I find to be the most grotesque. It's just like we are taking this idea that that we must, of course, fight anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is bad. Obviously, this is something we've talked about extensively on this podcast, being against it. And, but this idea that you're going to preemptively fight the Nazis is an argument that is, with regards to Palestinians, it is absolutely genocidal in nature. This idea that we need to never again be in a position in which there is a train is just meant to bolster the idea that the Palestinians are going to be the ones that build it, and inverts the reality of what's going on. Because what is going on? What's going on is that Gaza is that ghetto. Gaza is the ghetto that is being liquidated. Gaza is the ghetto that is being liquidated and having soldiers telling them you can either get out or be killed here. This type of resistance that he's talking about, is what exists in Gaza, and it is what is constantly being described as terrorism. But when you have this inverted Zionist narrative of like, oh, well, we're actually the victims, and Hamas and the Palestinians are actually the oppressive Nazis, you can say this shit with a straight face and not even blink. You could just say it and not even use your brain a little bit to go like, well, maybe what I am actually describing here is what Israel is doing currently to the Palestinians and has been doing for the last 70 years. So yeah, looking at Rabbi Shmuley and just trying to like put into context the Zionist mind, I think it's a really interesting exercise, because it really tells you everything you need to know about how Zionists view Jews who are not pro-Israel, or Jews who are not actively, loudly, fully supporting the government of Israel. And it's no way for me to look at that and not see the self-hatred and ingrained anti-Semitism that he talks about at the beginning of this article. This is the self-hate. The self-hate is looking at your fellow Jews and being like, you're a coward if you don't support this state. It's because you hate yourself that you are not allowing Israel to kill every man, woman, and child that they deem a threat. And fuck that. And fuck you, Rabbi. Is he really a rabbi? Who knows? Before we end this podcast today, first, thank you again to Daniel Maté for coming on and, talking about sad things with me in the funniest way we know how. Because what can you do? He's great. Follow him and click the links that I put in the bio. Patreon.com/badhasbara. This is the best way to support this podcast. Please, if you want to support this continuing effort, the more patrons I get, the more I can quit my job to, I don't want to do no more. Obviously, you get something for your money, because eventually, as things start getting a little bit more stable around the Lieb household, there will be bonus episodes for subscribers only, and you will be getting access to those. You also, just by joining, you get ad-free episodes of Bad Hasbara, so you don't have to listen to those pesky ads for who the F knows. I think, sometimes I heard some people sent in, there were some Hasbara ones, which I just think is funny. Please, Israeli government, keep paying me to, if there are Hasbara ads in there, I love the idea of getting paid by Israel and having a whole podcast about why their ads are bullshit. But yes, please support patreon.com/badhasbara. There is a new tier on that Patreon, and I'm going to read out. The $10 tier, you get the most moral shout out, and I want to give those now because it's the end of the episode and it's time, and I want to thank these people for doing so. So I'm going to do my best to read everyone's name here. Some of them I'm going to get right, and some of them I'm not going to pronounce correctly, but I love you. And I'm saying what is closest to the name that I can get. Some people have no, well, you'll see. Okay, first, this shout out to Cole Hammond. Also, shout out to someone just named Varza. And then shout out to, his name is Steve Gehring, Goering. I would just hope he's not related to the other Gehring, but if he is, I would also like the idea that the doesn't matter. Thank you, Steve. He's probably not. Next is Rami Akawi. Rami Akawi. Thank you so much. Preston Krull, Michael Shemesh, someone named Mecharogue. Then there's Itzhak Gerson. And then there's Lala. And also thank you to Sean Matthews. And thank you to Jillian Trafe Waller. Trafe? That's cool. It's not spelled that way, but it's a Yiddish word. Doesn't matter. And next, thank you, Jen Zen. Cool name. Next, thank you, Heshem. And thank you, Hazalito. Thank you, Ellis D. Thank you, Christopher Collins. Thank you, Chris Missile. Okay. Just a few more. Thank you, Brad Rogers. Thank you, Avery Turner Withdren. Thank you, Andrew Irvin. Thank you, Amy Vires. And lastly, thank you, Alex Ehrenfeld. All of you rule, and I love you. And if you want to get your name shouted out, patreon.com/badhasbara. Please join. If you want, I don't know. Okay. Finally, I want to end the podcast a different way. Usually I end with some joke or whatever and plugs and stuff. But I want to end with an email. It's a voicemail that I got from somebody who emailed us at badhasbara@gmail.com. And this is from someone who describes himself from a former Kahanist. His name is Amichai Axelrod, and wrote me this lovely email and then sent me a voicemail. It's long, but when I heard it, it was it just made me very, very grateful for this podcast and for this small but mighty community of people who've been listening to this and talking to me and sending me links and clips and jokes and stuff, and also their experiences and their stories. And I want to once again encourage people to send a voice memo, because I would like to play more of them. I would like to. I'm trying to answer emails as fast as I can. It's really hard to do, plus having all this other work. But this one I just wanted to share because it was just a fascinating perspective, and I thought that it would be good for people to hear it as we end this podcast today. So I'm going to play that for you, and thank you everyone for listening. And once again, from the river to the sea, I'm just going to say Palestine will be free. Okay.
Hi, Matt. My name is Amichai Axelrod, though I go by Ami. I also go by he, him, they, and I am recording in the historical territory of the Cowlitz, Cayuse, Umatilla, and the Walla Walla tribes, and the Confederated lands of the Grand Ronde, and the Confederated tribes of the Silets. I am an Israeli-American of Jewish and Romani heritage, born with dual citizenship in so-called Israel in the north, near the Lebanese border, though I grew up in Queens, New York. I am writing and recording this in the days after Airman Aaron Bushnell succumbed to his injuries from lighting himself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., in protest to so-called Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people and the so-called United States complicity in this genocide. I have been mulling over sharing my story for months now, and in light of Airman Bushnell's sacrifice, I find that it is literally the least that I can do. So, I was raised in an Orthodox Jewish Kahanist household. If you or your listeners are unaware, Rabbi Meir Kahana was a militant right-wing ideologue that founded the Jewish Defense League in 1968. Kahana was a right-wing Jewish nationalist, some argue fascist, advocating Aliyah, Jewish settlement of Palestine, who was virulently anti-Arab. He gained a seat in Knesset, Israel's parliament, in 1984, but was barred in 1988 due to his racism. The Israeli colonial project had more pretense about its respectability at the time. So beside the average trauma inflicted upon me by virtue of being a Jew raised on this planet after World War II, I was also indoctrinated in right-wing hate of Palestinian people, raised with the belief of Jewish supremacy in Israel. As I entered college, my politics leaned left. I protested against the Iraq War. I traveled to Washington, D.C. to rally in solidarity with Darfur and generally espoused progressive, if not socialistic, values. I still had a blind spot, though: Palestine. I still believed in Israel's propaganda, its Hasbara, its supposed rights to exist, to defense, and its declared morality of operations. I argued these points with people whose families had been brutalized by the occupation. It wasn't until 5 years ago when I would come to a place where I could interrogate and amend these beliefs. In the summer of 2019, I experienced a little light police brutality directed upon my person, and that radicalized me and began my adoption of anarchic ideologies. In 2020, during the George Floyd protests, I found myself on the receiving end of the practice of kettling, being surrounded by police and subjected to tear gassing without an avenue of escape, a practice developed and proselytized by the Israeli army to police forces the world over. This is arguably what Robert Evans pointed out in Season 1 of It Could Happen Here as Foucault's boomerang, practices of colonization being brought to the imperial core and used against its citizens, if one considers the interconnectedness of imperial projects. My various exposures to tear gas that year and police brutality further radicalized me and made me much more deeply empathetic to the Palestinian plight at the hands of Israeli settler colonialism, though I must admit some embarrassment at not having that shift until I was personally affected. Since October 7th, my timelines have been filled with friends, family, and strangers that are Zionist sympathizers posting their support for Israel. I have a brother, nieces, nephews, and cousins that reside there, some of which are actively in the so-called IDF, though most of my relatives live in the so-called US. I don't wish harm upon my family, though I certainly can't wish for their prosperity either. I see now the maliciousness of the history of the Nakba and the occupation, the left and right-wing attempts at subjugation, and the venom that it engendered. I understand this so-called conflict for the genocide that it is. The rhetoric of Zionism makes me embarrassed through their propaganda of equating their fascism with Judaism. Every time I see Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives, on their banners, I am sickened. It feels like they are literally doing this in my name, Amichai being derivative of this phrase. My gut's in knots with this. I wonder how a country supposedly born out of the ashes of the Holocaust can act this way to another people. How can Jews there and abroad not see the fascism that drips from their rhetoric, the dehumanization of a people so maligned and downtrodden by their military and politic? How can they not see the hypocrisy of it all? Whatever answers that may be mustered in my imaginings in the darkness of the fact of this genocide, they are no comfort or true rationale. The 30,000 men, women, and children killed, the millions of refugees malnourished, mistreated, and traumatized in the collective punishment carpet bombings of the apartment complexes, hospitals, and universities of Gaza, and the lockouts of aid, and the killing of journalists and UN workers in the second Nakba, they haunt me. And my own trauma of conditioned fear over the potential of another Holocaust as explanation for Zionism and Israel's continuation, and my worry and anger over my family, these are not worth anyone else's life. I look to Airman Bushnell's action with a variety of emotions, particularly in finding out he held anarchic beliefs. I am reminded of anarchist Willem Vince Bronson in his one-man assault of the Tacoma ICE Detention Center in 2019, which led to his execution by Tacoma PD. In the aftermath of Spronson's action, his comrade stated, "This movement needs accomplices, not martyrs." And I wonder if this is true for Bushnell as well. His circumstance was different than Spronson's, though. Bushnell stated prior to his self-immolation that he would no longer be complicit in the genocide Israel was conducting. As an active duty Air Force member, he was likely ordered to participate. Addressing his objections via the chain of command and refusal to comply would likely have been met with a quiet court-martial that would have landed him in a military prison and/or being dishonorably discharged. A sacrifice that may have soothed his conscience, but would not have done anything for the Palestinian plight. And so my emotions are complex. Feeling loss for a potential comrade, and awe at his brave commitment, sadness for his parting and for his family's grief, and the likely right-wing targeting that is about to ensue, sorrow for his feeling like this was his only avenue to help the cause, and gratitude to his staunch resolve. There are many more feelings amongst the stew of this, but chief amongst them is hope. Seeing the undeniable discourse his last act engendered at the imperial core, demanding that we pay Palestine heed, his death was not in vain. Beyond Airman Bushnell, there are peace talks in Paris and Qatar, supposedly nearer to armistice than has been since October 7th. And the Michigan primary has delivered the message strongly to the Democrats that the people will not suffer our own complicity in genocide. And so I have hope. And this is what I hope for. May those who are mourning their losses in Gaza and the family of Airman Bushnell be comforted with the other mourners of the world, and may their memories be a blessing. May those in Gaza find peace, comfort, and solace. May their hungers be slaked and their thirsts quenched. I hope for the emancipation of hostages from Gazan and Israeli capture. May we have an indefinite ceasefire soon and a free Palestine. And may the world see through the charade and pageantry of nation-states and empires, and may people triumph over profit and corporate greed in our lifetimes. Thank you for your time, Matt. Please keep up the good and important work you're doing, maintaining a space where Jews like me don't feel